Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly O'Horo, and this is Adaptable, Behavior Explained. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in today on our show, Adaptable. I've got with us for a second episode, Jayden Ocampo, who is a tremendous young lady who has been so fantastic to watch. I've gotten to see her grow up over the last 7 years, and we are continuing our conversation today about mindset. So if you did not catch the first episode, I encourage you to tune in so you can get to know her better, because she is definitely worth knowing better. So please do so. So Jayden, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I think we're just going to pick up where we left off, because you were on a roll and I just want to pick up that momentum. So in the first part of our show, you talked about successes and overcoming and resilience and grit and all these great things and your values, but nobody gets where you're at without failure. And it's just part of the gig. And I want to talk a little bit about learning from failure and how overcoming is so important, and also getting back up when we fall down. And I want to make sure that people understand it's not always good. And we do, when we get in the arena, like Brene Brown would talk about, it's not if, it's when we're going to fall down and get our butt kicked. So let's talk a little bit about overcoming adversity.
Perfect.
So when you think about failure or shortcomings or not achieving something that was, that you worked so hard for, can you give us an example of a time where, the outcome wasn't what you had prepared for or planned for?
Yeah.
And what'd you do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up, I was really involved in school. I did clubs and sports, and I just had so much fun with it. And growing up, I went to leadership conferences, and being a leader was something that was always really important to me, because I do feel like I was given a voice and I really wanted to use it to help other people. And so naturally, I was involved in student council, and I worked really hard throughout my entire high school career to run for student body president one day. And how my school did it was like, the students didn't have that much of a say in their executive leadership. It was more of just like you vote for who you generally want, and then a panel of teachers will assign positions from there.
Oh,
and
that
so
sounds interesting.
It wasn't really student council. And so I got 200 signatures of students supporting me to be president. I wrote an essay about how badly I wanted to be president, and not just about how bad I wanted it for the title or anything like that. That was never important to me, but just how I was going to use the platform to make my school a better place.
Right. Advocacy.
And and I interviewed for president, and I go to the front office to be told what position I'd got, and I walk in and they go, "We would like to offer you the position of vice president." And that was just a knife to the chest. Not that I wasn't grateful to still be involved and still be a leader in some capacity, but when you're a girl and you just have worked so hard to be taken seriously and to be respected, and to see the position you truly worked your entire high school career for go to a boy who didn't have the level of interest or passion that you did, it is just a heartbreaking experience. And I'm sure that is such a common one for girls in our world today, that they work so hard for something and they're overlooked, and what they want was given to a boy or given to somebody else, and you truly feel like you were so qualified, and it makes you think, where did I go wrong? Where did I fall short? What do I need to change about myself? How was I not enough? Like, how could they possibly have not picked me? It leads to like this spiral. And so in overcoming that, I really had to realize, like, failure is a part of life, but I didn't fail. Things were outside of my control. There were circumstances that I didn't have any control over that led to this really unfortunate outcome that I really do feel was an injustice. And that wasn't my fault. I was never not enough. I would have been a fantastic president. It was not my failure that led to this. And so I think it's so important to learn from failure and to learn from when things don't go your way, but it's so important to not internalize it.
Absolutely.
Because failure doesn't define you. And I had a really hard time not letting it define me, because I'd worked my whole life for this. I went above and beyond. So much personal and professional development went into crafting myself into being the best president I possibly could have been. And it was taken away from me. And I had to learn, like, wait, I'm still a good leader without this title.
And an opportunity to embody some resilience and some learning from those things, and helping you, forge forward in your future goals on how you might want to strategize and things like that to really understand what, not just it's all about how hard I work, but also there are bureaucracies that are in play in these types of things that we have to be aware of and awake to, and we need to learn how to navigate those strategically as well. So those are also lessons that likely came for that experience.
Well, and it also taught me that my worth doesn't come from a title,
right,
or a plaque.
I'm glad you learned that.
A piece of paper that said I had this role, and it also really motivated me to be like, okay, I know what it's like to be wronged, and I know what it's like to experience injustice. And so how do I take this experience and make sure when I'm in a position of power, I make sure it never happens to anybody else ever again. It truly empowered me to be even more ambitious in my advocacy. And it's a little chip on my shoulder I carry through to this day, but it really did. It was an experience that taught me so much, and I'm so grateful for it.
So in my field, we understand that our neural pathways are really important to be aware of, and how our data that we experience in the outside world, how that informs the way we think. And so everything is learned. We are learning species. We grew up in homes where we learned things, whether it was intentionally taught or whether or not we just watched and observed, and we learned how to be some way and emulate something, or we wanted to learn how not to be based on things that we witnessed. And so we are learning creatures, and success is oftentimes neurologically underpinned. So when you think about the science behind that and science principles that would inform success for you, how do you stay up on that information, and how do you incorporate what you know about the science of mindset and positive thinking into your actions and daily life and your continued learning to keep those things fresh for you?
Well, obviously, I listen to the Adaptable podcast every week.
Shameless plug.
Because we cover a variety of topics on this podcast, and it's a very diverse platform to learn a lot about holistic psychology and psychiatry and wellness. But in other ways, I listen to podcasts. My church has a podcast that they come out with a new episode every week, and we talk about how to apply biblical principles into your everyday life. And it's really fascinating. I think people would be so surprised to see how hand in hand the Bible and science go together, because they talk about how important it is to be grateful, and they talk about how important moments of stillness are. I mean, if you look, there's like so many stories in the Bible of like where something crazy is happening and Jesus is just taking a nap. And just so really pointing to moments of what we were talking about in the last episode of just stillness and mindfulness. So I listen to this podcast. I listen to my faith podcast. I also read a lot of books on like self-help and personal development, just to grow my own mind and my own personal understanding of the world around me. And so I've learned really great strategies and techniques for like calming myself down or changing my perspective. And I think that's such a cool thing about the field of psychiatry. It's that it's not really reserved for like those with PhDs and like the educational elite.
With the internet,
exactly,
we have full access to so many advanced things, and we can apply it however we choose.
Yeah, psychiatry is truly a field that is so accessible to anybody, regardless of demographic status, and I think that's so amazing. It's such an equitable field. Anybody can learn about it and improve their own personal learning of it. So,
and the more you know about how we work and the field of psychology and the neurobiological underpinnings about how we work, that'll benefit any profession or any career.
Exactly.
There's one thing that everything we do is not devoid of, and that's the human experience and the human, connection, and relating and communicating with one another is essential in every field. So I think that's great advice. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So one last question before we close up for today. How would you see yourself in 5 years thinking about mindset and your goal-oriented thinking and strategy?
5 years. I'm only 20, so that does seem kind of far away. But I would definitely say I hope to have, more degrees and be more advanced in my professional field. But I just truly hope I never lose the why not mentality. And I think something that can get missed when you see highly successful people, celebrities, philanthropists, just the elite of the world is like, we see their highlight reels, we see their shining moments when they're accepting their Oscar or their Nobel Peace Prize. And I think we forget that like, that's not random. Something that I really hold near and dear to my heart is like people, like we were talking about with the external validation and the accolades. Like I do get a lot of positive feedback when I announce a new project or when I announce a new accomplishment, but people see the final product. And it's so important to never forget that like those shining moments were not random. I don't win lotteries. My name is not drawn out of a hat for these opportunities. Like there is so much work that goes into the behind the scenes and so many things that even I'm working on a project right now that I've been working on since 2023 and it won't come into fruition until 2025. So truly like I put so much effort into the behind the scenes to get me to where I am today. And I hope I never lose that spirit. And I hope I always remember like why not, and to keeping fearless and going for things. And I hope to be in a position where I'm helping others.
That's awesome. I so appreciate your time today, and that you're, just like I said before, a beacon of light and truly inspirational human. And I cannot wait to see what you do with all of these gifts and ambition and perseverance, which are clearly at the forefront of how you operate in the world. And I look forward to getting to be on the sidelines peeking at you through your future endeavors. So thank you again so much for being here. And hopefully you got something out of this show about mindset and perseverance and ambition and overcoming, because those are all parts of our outcomes. And thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to lead with love. It'll never steer you wrong.